Hello, everyone. I hope that you are doing well, that the world is being kind to you. My name is Jackie Boyd. I'm the owner of the Care Plan, and my pronouns are she, her, they, them. Tonight, we're going to be in conversation with Jacqueline, another Jacqueline, Jacqueline Revere, of Mom of My Mom, and we're going to be talking caregiving. Hi, Zipporah. Hi, Anne. It's so wonderful to be with you. I've missed y'all. Hi, Jacqueline. She's ready to join, so let's go ahead and get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi,
Hi,
Jacqueline. How
how
are
are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you again. How have you been? Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
it's literally that moment by moment, breath by breath, and that's okay. But that just happens to be what this moment is today.
honey, you are not alone. You are not alone.
Good,
There's
good.
those moments too, so you may hear a little bit of teariness. So my heart is with you. And I'm so glad to be sharing this space with you tonight. And hi, everybody who's joining. We are so glad that you're here.
Yes, we are.
So, Jacqueline, thank you so much again for your time and for really the treasure of what you do every day, which is first care for and honor your mom and yourself in that relationship, but also sharing that with the world and being able to bring the realities and the challenges that exist day to day as a caregiver to folks, some of whom, are anticipating being caregivers and are trying to understand what that journey can look like. Some of whom are in the midst of it and really need inspiration and support. And some of whom maybe are at the end of their caregiving journey or in a moment of pause and are looking back and are saying, how did I do this? How did I get through? And remembering those moments. And you just do such a wonderful, phenomenal job of highlighting the humanity in addition to the challenges. So, can you please share a little bit about yourself, how you came to be a caregiver, and what that means to you, what that identity means to you?
Absolutely. I just want to start out by saying thank you. I started this literally because I felt lonely, and the fact that, the page is where it is now and people are commenting and sharing how they go through the exact same thing. It means the world. Um, so I started taking care of my grandmother and my mom in 2016. By the way, I also like to start out by telling people that I stutter, and so your phone isn't acting up. That's me, but you'll get used to it also. Um, But at the time, I was living in New York City, and I received a phone call from my mom's friend, and she said, "Hey, something is wrong with your mom. You need to fly home." And I was sort of like, "Something's wrong with my mom. What?" At the time, I was in my late 20s, and like hadn't really known about what Alzheimer's was at all. We weren't talking about it nearly as much as the way that we are now. And so I was, just like, and so I ended up flying home. And one of the first things I saw was that the mail had like piled high. And it turns out that the debit card that the mortgage was paid on had lapsed. And so the mortgage wasn't being paid. And so we had foreclosure notices. And
Wow.
so coming
Wow.
home to see that, I was like, oh my, what is going on? And then of course the food in the refrigerator had expired, and my mom was the type to like throw something out if it had like mold on it slightly. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
this is bad, like And so seeing that you know there was food in there that was months old, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this isn't my mama. Yeah. And so um just like slowly seeing more things like that really led me to see that there was something wrong. And that's really where it started. I was 29 at the time. I had no idea what to do. The matriarch, both my grandmother and my mother had started showing signs, and then we later found out that our furnace was slowly leaking carbon monoxide.
No.
And that's why, yeah. And that's why
Oh.
it
Oh,
ended
that's
up,
so horrendous.
yeah. Talk about heartbreak. Talk
Oh
about
my
like,
God.
um, and the years that followed were a lot of depression, a lot of sorrow, a lot of people not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do. And oftentimes, when people don't know what to do and say, they don't do anything.
Yep.
And then that creates the cycle of feeling like no one loves you and no one cares. And what my saving grace was one night I was on Instagram, not on on my own personal page, and it was like 2 a.m. and I just woke up crying, and I went to my like Insta stories, and I was like, I don't know why this is happening. Like what, why? What did I do? Why am I here? And two of my friends from New York saw it, and then they reached out, and then they gave me 6 months of their therapy.
Oh wow.
And like that's kind of where the switch started. Like my mom would not have happened had I not had some sort of support, someone to like talk this out with. And that's kind of like where it started.
My heart as you continue to share your story, and folks are responding in the chat, and thank you everybody for all the support that you're offering. Caregiving can be such an isolating journey, and my heart goes out to you because you're so young. 29 is a rough time in life to be to do that kind of changing of your life, picking up, supporting your mom and your grandma with what was the results of just an incredibly unjust and devastating situation that,
Yeah.
like, you can't control.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How have you been able to, and how were you then? I know you said that therapy was part of it. How have you found your support system? Have you connected with other caregivers through this? Do you find a balance in your day to day? How do you continue to sustain yourself? Sounds like that therapist was a lifeline and
Yeah.
helped you feel centered and grounded. But this is a marathon,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
marathon. So how have you been since then?
Yeah. So I'm 5 years where next May will be 6 years of me taking care of my mom, which even sounds nuts because I didn't think that I was gonna make it this far at all. But long story short, what ended up happening is my friend moved from Macon, Georgia, to an extra room that I had here. And And so like just with having that support, having someone that I can like bounce ideas off of, like that's sort of where it all began making sense, because I wasn't living here by myself taking care of one person. You know, for a long time, it was me living in this house taking care of two people with Alzheimer's. And just that will drive you mentally insane. Like you don't know what's up. You don't know what's down. Nothing makes sense. And there's no one who you can just have a conversation with. And
Yeah.
so like having my friend move here, he's who really helped me, like, okay, you're having a moment, take some time. Like
Hmm.
he's who reminded me that like you're not by yourself anymore. And just knowing that I wasn't by myself anymore,
Hmm.
like that slowly calmed my nervous system. And it slowly got me to the point where I could figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew that I wasn't the only person out here going through it. And because like I had started a YouTube years years before, sharing what it's like to be a person who stutters. And so making content was something that I knew. Like it's something that I knew that people from niche sections could find to identify with. And so since I knew that, I was like, well, maybe I can find like my people. And that's when I started sharing. And we found a lot of people, you know, we're
A
still finding.
lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like really how it started, was just me like looking for community and people who have had the same experience and people who knew what they were doing also, because I had no clue. I'm like it was all new, and when you're doing something new, like it's scary. And
I just have to say, like, I think with caregiving on a personal front, because I've been a professional caregiver for 20 years, and
mm,
it is always an honor, and you see the struggle and you see the joys that come as well, but it is different. It is different when it's your family. And I think even people that know what they're doing don't feel that way. You know, like family caregivers, there's 65 million caregivers across the country that are caring for an older loved one unpaid, trying to figure out how to fit it into life and feeling, guilty if you can't. I think
mm-hmm,
that's just so tough, is to, feel like, well, I wish I could do this for my mom, or I wish I could do that for my partner, my dad, my whomever that needs care. But there's not a roadmap, and our systems don't educate caregivers. And so you kind
at
of just
all.
jump in. And even systems, from my experience, that are helpful, right? Like the Alzheimer's Association is a great resource, but it's more geared, all the resources, not all of them, but many resources seem geared towards, this is the disease, these are the many diagnoses, these are the conditions and signs and symptoms. It's not about how do you do it? How do you get through? How do you, build that routine, find support for yourself and for them, not feel like you have to take it all on either? Because that's what I see a lot of caregivers feeling like, Well, actually, I've been through it, but I'm not an expert because I didn't do everything right. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how do you feel like you've been changed by
Yeah.
your experience as a caregiver? How has it impacted you?
So I just want to say, like, there's no way to do it right. I don't think that there is a right. Um, but I'm sorry, ask that question again because I'm like, that's a big question.
Yeah, well, let me slim it down. What are some of the ways that you have been changed
Oh my,
by caregiver?
oh my God, every part of me. I am literally not the same human. Every part of me has changed. The way I think about the future, the way I date, the my career goals have changed. The the way that I value the people who stick by my side has changed, and it has changed for the better because something like this will teach you to keep the people who are there, keep them real tight, like real close, and like make sure that they are taken care of also. It's really forced me to see the importance of community also. There's absolutely no way that I think we can continue as a society with more and more people being diagnosed with the aging population living longer. We don't have the infrastructure as a society to like take care of what is going to hit us hard. And we need to create more community support. We need to talk about this. We need to share our tips and our tricks and our hacks and how we're getting through it. We need to share our mental health like stories, how we're staying on top of all of that stuff. But like it's really forced me to take mental health in like so important. Like I go to therapy weekly and I do not miss it. I make sure that when I'm feeling tapped out, I'm like, okay, self that means it's time for self-care and I don't take that lightly.
Yeah,
Um and what I really hope is that people see me taking it seriously and they choose to take it seriously for themselves also. Um, but like one thing that has really changed was I used to work out so that I could like look sexy and be like, oh, well, look, that, ooh, okay. But now, literally, I work out because it's good for my mind.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so much has changed. Like seeing how this has affected my mom and like seeing how young she is and seeing how able bodied she is. And it's really pointed out to me that you can have working limbs and everything, but if your mind's not there, then you're not yourself anymore.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
uh, well, it's also put like a fire. It's also put a fire. It's put a fire under my butt because women take on the brunt of this.
Mm-hmm.
Women of color take on the brunt of this.
Yep.
And we need support. We need institutions put in place that help. We need laws to be changed. We need like social services. We need everything.
Yeah. I feel like, and I think about this all the time because, really it's been in two generations that we've gone from caring for our vulnerable folks and our elders in our homes to the pathway being more what I think of as kind of warehousing. Like, and I,
Mm-hmm.
we as care managers, we refer to skilled care facilities, and we interact with these big systems, and there can be wonderful things that happen, but it's different than, you see your loved one every day. You're having a meal with them. You're seeing what aging looks like. And I think to your point about, your mom's young and she's got her mobility, but her brain is decaying,
Yeah.
is with Alzheimer's and with many forms of dementia. What is quality of life for you? What are your quality of life goals for your mom, for the years ahead? What's
Yeah.
in
So for mom, things that I really try to stay on top of are making sure that she have moments of joy, whether that's taking a walk near the elementary school, and she's like looking at the kids, and she's waving and smiling. Um, whether it's making sure that she continues to socialize and see people and talk to people, I really try to like make sure that my mom is not locked in, locked inside.
hmm
During COVID, it was really hard, but like making sure that we were walking around, going to parks, and still socializing, making sure that she's eating healthy still, making sure that she feels good in her body. I'm still like monitoring her sugar, her food, and making sure that like there are moments of joy.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I think that I can maintain that for her is because I spend so much time with her. And so like there is a intuition
Mm.
there also. Like
Yep.
I can sense when she has pain. I sense when she's not feeling good also. And I just feel like you lose some of that when you're not, caring for a parent at home.
hmm hmm There's all those little moments that you get to have when you're in the home or when you're caregiving regularly, right? Maybe you do a couple nights a week with
Mm-hmm.
the person, or you take the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
or you take a week while maybe your sibling is the primary caregiver and then you give them a break.
Mm-hmm.
But that, so in earlier in my career, I managed a home care agency
Mm-hmm.
and got to see the difference even with paid caregivers between like somebody that's there for an hour or two a day versus
Mm-hmm.
that does live in, which is round the clock care.
Right.
And it's always intimate. It's always intimate when you're in someone's home or when they're in your home and you're
Yeah.
sharing space and you're doing all of those, personal care tasks that
Yeah.
I'm sure your mom imagined you would never do for her. I would imagine your mom, did not expect that you would be doing the things that you do for her currently or coach her to do every day, you know. Um, so I think that there's just the joy that you mentioned. There is joy to be had.
Absolutely.
Caregiving is not a broad brush. Go ahead.
No, yeah. I just want to nail that point in. And people see where my mom is now, but literally I've had 5 years. It's taken us years to get to this point, which is why I really make it like a choice to post the old videos so that people like see her like running up and saying like, you are you I'm slowing down, I'm sorry. You're my best friend. Like, they can see the moments where she was still very like, I'm the mom here. So, like, there's been a journey to the place that we are now. And so you see me like mostly caring for her now, but it's been a journey to get here, and it's been a roller coaster, you know, but it's also like I what else would I be doing? Going to a bar every night? Like I my mom put so much intention into raising me that it just wouldn't feel right not giving that back to her. And I know that that is not everyone's story, and I respect that absolutely. Um, but like for me, my mom was my everything. I there was never a day that I needed anything because I knew my mom had it prior to me even knowing I wanted it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, what I often say is that my mom loved me for an entire lifetime. So she concentrated a whole lot of love
Yeah.
and like we're still writing on it.
Mm-hmm. I so appreciate what everything that you're saying, and I want to be sure to welcome folks into the room because we've had a lot of people joining us. Yeah, everybody, keep those hearts coming. We love to see you in the comments. We appreciate you sharing your story. And to the caregivers who are in here, you are superheroes every day, and
You are.
we really appreciate you. You are here with Jacqueline of the Care Plan. We provide care planning, care management, and consulting services from an LGBTQ plus perspective. So we work one-on-one with families and individuals, some who are at the start of their caregiving journey and are saying, how do I do this? What are the resources? How can I make this sustainable? And what are the right decisions? And then we work with folks who are, sometimes in crisis and need an advocate to deal with these systems, right? If you're not getting the answers that you need from the hospital, or if you're struggling to hear from the nursing home, or the caregivers aren't working out that you've hired, call, reach out. We're here to help. And I want to thank Zipporah on our team because Jacqueline Zipporah is like your biggest fan. And months ago said, we need to have Mama My Mom on as a guest.
Huh? Thank you.
And I would love for you to share a little bit, again, for folks that are just joining us, a little bit about, Mom of My Mom as a social media outlet, kind of who it's geared towards and what
Mm-hmm.
people can expect when they interact with your channel. And then we'll get back to the more personal stuff.
Yeah, so Mom of My Mom is a diary that I'm pretty much making of moments that I get to share with my mom. But then on top of that, I'm also sort of like teaching things that have helped me. So whether it's redirection or learning how to handle her like roaming, learning how to handle UTIs. Um, these are things that most people who care for someone who has it will encounter. And so my goal is like to just share as much information as I can because there's there's a lot of information about dementia, but none of it seems very like specific.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I can do is, as these experiences come up for me, I just try to share them as much as I can, but I also really try to do it in a way that remains respectful, because my number one goal is to make sure that my mom has the dignity that she should have. And so I'm like very aware of what I post and how I post, and so we do talk about some like very touchy topics, but it's always coming from a like, let's learn about it, because I'm learning at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the exciting parts about being a caregiver. There's always more to learn. You can be doing this for 20 years, and on day on the 20th year, the first day, you're going to learn something you never expected.
Like, oh, there's something else.
You're like, oh, this now?
Mm-hmm.
So I was really curious after watching your materials. I was like, how do you set up these shots? How do you capture these moments? Because caregiving is pretty all encompassing. So you're like making breakfast, we're gonna work out, we're gonna do this, that, and the other, and somehow making it look, centered and easy to access and understand what's happening in a, 30-second or 1-minute clip. That's remarkable. How
Thank
do
you.
you do that?
A lot of editing. I edit a lot. However, like I don't know. I kind of have an eye for it. I've worked like prior to this. I worked in TV, and so like setting up shots, knowing how to tell a story. That's my like forte, and so I use a lot of that skill, but then on top of that, you just have to know how to work the camera quick. You just got to go duh, 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 okay, duh, 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 okay. And so like knowing the shortcuts and how to, set it all up. But on top of that, I lose stuff all the time. Like sometimes I don't get tons of stuff all the time.
Mhm,
Um and it's, like that's just a part of it, but it's a practice.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
a practice.
Well, I am truly, truly impressed. I'm currently out with my mom doing some heavy duty caregiving, and when I imagine trying to set up a camera while also, doing all these tasks, I'm like, that's I don't know. You're superhuman. I
It
don't know
feels impossible half the time. I'm like, how is this gonna work? All right, let me just put the camera here and be like, all right, so. But it's I don't know, it's working right now.
how. So you said that part of what's been so wonderful about this diary is that you get to share tips and tricks and things that you've learned in the hopes that it will make life easier for other caregivers. Um, what are some of the things that you wish you had had training on when you started your caregiving journey? What do you wish you had known?
mm, that the willpower of a person with dementia is 10 times stronger than yours. So don't even try to change what they want to do. Just try to figure out how to meet them in the middle. Uh, what I say is that it taught me that my ego means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to let go of your ego quickly, or else it will drive you crazy. Like you trying to be right all the time, or you trying to, you know, yeah, like it's not about that. It's about figuring out how to get the job done. It's not about this is the right way to do it, or uh because I said so. Because I said so
No,
is the
means
who
nothing.
cares? Like, yeah, right.
Means
That
less than nothing.
literally, it's the dirt underneath your
Uh-huh.
shoe. Nothing. Um, and so I would have loved to learn that sooner, but I also think that that is something that you have to go through to figure out also. Like it's you don't just relinquish your ego because you want to. You usually have to relinquish your ego because in order to survive, you have to.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I that, but like I also wish that I would have understood sooner that my mom's were my mom getting worse is not a sign of me not caring for her. Like that just will happen over time. And it doesn't mean that I'm not doing a good job. It just means that that is what happens. And I try to not take that personally because it's hard seeing your parent, get less and less of who they were, um, and not making that a personal failing on myself is really important to do. Not feeling guilt when I take time for myself. I used to feel immense guilt. And then on top of that, also taking that time.
Yeah. It makes you better
Absolutely.
to take that time, whether it is, like you said, working out and taking that time every day or every few days to just have nourishment of yourself, because you just can't. Caregiving is so all encompassing that it really shifts the center of your world. And if you're not rooted in your world, and if you don't have that time or that space for yourself, you're not going to be your best self with them. That love and that sweetness is going to feel like it's eroding. And what's left is the tasks. And so I just really appreciate what you're saying. Can everybody hear me okay? Hi, everyone. I can see folks still in the chat. Oh, I think we lost Jacqueline for a minute. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. What do you all think about what we're talking about so far? Hopefully, Jacqueline will join us again. We're with Jacqueline Revere of Mom of My Mom. And I'd love to hear your stories in the chat. I'm Jacqueline Boyd of the Care Plan. Have been a caregiver for 20 years and have just been so excited to talk with Jacqueline, because I think when you are deep into your caregiving journey, there's a knowing, there's a knowing of like, yes, the harsh realities of it, but also the hope and the joy and the innovation and the excitement and the enrichment that can happen when you're a caregiver that happens in very few other spaces. I see some people in the chat, and it looks like people are really responding to that sense about ego. And I think that's really important because, you know, I see people struggle initially when their loved one is starting to have signs of memory loss, and ego's involved there too. People are like, oh, I don't, that's just a bad day. Mom's just having a bad day or a bad week. And it's okay. that our bodies change and that our minds change and that we're not who we were the day before. It's always, I think, hardest for those of us who, are the caregiver, to let go of that ego piece and say, okay, how can I meet this person where they're at? How can I provide comfort? Not just do these tasks, but create memories where there's love and sweetness involved and provide comfort in the day to day. So Jacqueline is coming back with us. We are live with Mom of My Mom. Y'all, thank you so much for your comments in the chat. This is how we do on our channel. We have these conversations every Tuesday night, with a few exceptions, to basically discuss these issues for caregivers, for care recipients, for people who are aging, and we do that from an LGBTQ plus perspective. And we center Black and Brown folks in this space as well. So if you appreciate that, let me hear you in the chat. And I hope that you'll join us on future Tuesdays as we continue these conversations. I think that Jacqueline may be having some challenges. Caregiving with me, you have been putting a lot in the chat. If you want to pop on for a minute and say hi, would love to talk with you momentarily, because I see you're putting a lot of information in the chat, and you seem to have a lot to share. So, hey, Tinu. Hi, Z. Hi, Carlin. Glad y'all are here. Caregiving with me, you wrote, I'm caring for my mother with Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed 4 years ago. I'm an only child, and I have hired help for her as our family is 5 hours away. I think that's the other piece that is such a challenge, is figuring out the care team, right? Because it can feel lonely, y'all. It really can. And I'm saying this not just as the head of an agency, but as a caregiver right now, who is the one of five siblings that is doing caregiving live and in person. Um, it's a lot. And getting that system of support, like Jacqueline was saying, is really, really critical. Nobody gets there alone. And if you do, you're not going to be great at the end of your caregiving journey. So just really want to reiterate what she's saying. And hopefully, let's see, we have this request. Hopefully Jacqueline can join us. Oh, hey, hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. This is definitely an impromptu.
I know, it's like no pressure. You might not have your lighting or your glasses on or whatever, but I'm so glad that you
I
joined.
just took my bonnet off.
That's a cute bonnet. You've been saying so much in the chat, and it seems like you, in particular, are really trying to amplify for Black millennial caregivers. Like, we're here too, and we need support, and we have stories to share. So, do you mind saying a little bit about, your perspective, where you're coming from, and how you became a caregiver?
Absolutely. So, I will be 36 in a few days, and I have been again caregiving for my mom since 4 years ago. So that would have made me 31, going on 32. And as Jacqueline previously stated, for me, my story was I noticed some changes also in my mother. At that time, I live in Houston, so I was living in the outskirts of Houston, about an hour away from where she's located. And I would come by and do periodic visits, and my mom would get lost going to quote unquote familiar places. Like I said, coming by on visits and noticing that the mail is piling up, that there's old food, that just the way that I grew up with this clean house was no longer. So it took about 2 years for me to find, let me make that correction, 2 years in a light, the electricity being disconnected, for
Oh,
me to say, Mom, something is going on and we have to figure this out. So we finally was able to go to her primary care physician, where we were able to get the, referral for the neurologist. We did the neuropsychiatric evaluation, and um, of course, the results, yielded Alzheimer's. So it was very difficult for me. For one, we received the diagnoses 2 days before Thanksgiving. So that's
oh,
always embedded in me for now on. Like, I don't like Thanksgiving. I don't really like this time of year. let's just get through it, number
Yep.
one. Two, um, it has truly been a struggle because my mom is a retired police officer and she is that alpha female. And one alpha female plus another alpha female is just a perfect storm in a sense. So, to kind of wrap it up, also, my mother does not have long-term care insurance. So that's where my ministry comes in a sense, to amplify and to have people understand these costs are not pretty. And unfortunately, my mom is right there at that line where she's considered middle class. So she doesn't qualify for Medicaid. She doesn't qualify for a lot of supplemental programs. And I pay 4,000 a month out of pocket for someone to be here in the home with us.
Yeah. It's
And every 2 weeks I
unsustainable.
get, because I'm handing this lady a check and I'm like, this could be Jamaica or this could be Bora Bora or something.
Yep, absolutely. No, it's heartbreaking. And I think, so many people think, oh, Medicare will pay for it, or there's some government program that will pay for it. No, the threshold is real low. And we're in Illinois. Where are you all at?
I'm in Texas.
Okay. So here
Hmm.
in Illinois, I mean, and even if you go to the later stages of dementia, when somebody needs round the clock care, a
Hmm.
subpar nursing home is going to be $92,000 a year. And this is why, speaking of ministry, this is why I started the company, is because people don't know that, and then you're making these decisions from a place of crises when this is expensive. These are
Yes.
expensive decisions. So whether it is, yes, we need to invest in long-term care or have a plan for what those years look like, or we need to advocate for our systems to change and be more accessible for folks at different income levels. Because I have literally worked with folks that had millions in the bank that ran through it paying for
Hmm.
care. So, we just support you and thank you so much for hopping on. And I
No
hope we
problem.
connect.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
You take care. Keep staying active in the chat. We will have you back.
Thank. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye. Jacqueline Revere, I'm going to bring you back in. Thank you for your patience. There seemed to be an issue with the connection. So thanks everybody for hanging in, and hopefully mom of my mom can rejoin us with the hey, there we are. Hello.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, is this still okay time, or are you
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I tend to not put my phone on the charger, and
oh,
bad
that's
things
what
happen when you don't charge your phone. That's what it was.
that's all right. Well, we thank you so much for your patience, because we heard from another person who is just an amazing caregiver, and we heard a little bit about her story, and she brought up the costs of care, which I think is, a piece that we haven't had a chance to touch on. When you need a break, unless you have that tight circle of support, respite programs are pretty limited. Have you ever looked into respite, or do you use caregivers for your mom, or adult day programs? Like, what does the rest of your team, in the daily look like?
Yeah, so excuse me, we have a day program that my mom goes to right now, 2 days per week from 9 a.m. to like 1 o'clock. And Medi-Cal pays for that. So, I mean, we pay a lot of taxes out here, but like we get some social services. And so that helps. However, on top of that, I private pay, and that's a couple of thousand a month.
Yeah.
And the more care that my mom will need over time, the price will go up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's incredibly expensive, and it And it doesn't stop. We did not have long-term care insurance. I actually don't think that most people have it. And so talking more about long-term care insurance is important also, but there are so many other things, like my grandmother had insurance, but the card that she was paying with had expired, and so that lapsed all of the payments. And of course, she didn't know because she was diagnosed. And I just think that there are so many like legislative laws and changes that we need to put in place, because that's so predatory for someone to have paid into it for years and years and years, and because of their cognitive decline, they now can't have what they've paid into. And so we just keep like losing over and over and over again, and no one's really doing anything about it also.
Mhm.
And so like there's a lot that needs to happen.
There is, and I completely agree with you, and I want to say there's a lot of tools to support, if you are looking far enough ahead of time. But I feel like most of us, and in part because of ageism that exists in our culture, we don't look at this fourth quarter of life. And so then we leave choice on the table, right? Like if I really understood what these costs were, maybe I would make different decisions in my 30s, 40s, and 50s
Mm-hmm.
than, just hoping that it'll be okay. If, dementia runs in my family, maybe I will look into that or do like you're doing, being active and physical and making sure that you're doing everything you can to be sure that like my health stays where I need it to be. I
Right.
think this with my mom all the time because she has diabetes and arthritis. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to get me.
Absolutely.
Is some,
Absolutely.
something that I can have an impact on. But the finances are part of it too, and people underestimate these costs significantly. So I'm curious because you are doing so much for folks. Just even here in our time together today, people feel seen and so
Yeah.
supported just by being able to see somebody that looks like them, looks like their mom, out here in the world, having fun, listening to music, getting through the day and addressing these caregiving challenges. How can people support you? Is there a way that people can, donate for some of these costs? Should they just follow you on social media? Should they reach out to you for speaking gigs? Like, how can we support you?
Yes, so literally all of it. Follow Mom of My Mom on TikTok and on here also as well. We have a Cash App if you would like to send something. On top of that, I also make like shirts and sweatshirts that I feel embody what it is that I do as a caregiver. You can go to momofmymom.com for that. But like making shirts that sort of like share what being a caregiver means to me has also really helped me learn to identify with the term even, because like I was like caregiver. Is that what I am? Am I a caregiver? And I'm like, well, yeah, technically, girl, that is what you do. You give
Yeah.
care.
Yep.
Yeah. So so like finding ways to just make that word feel more real, feel more like me, feel more fun, feel more young, feel more, just all of that. And so if you go to momofmymom.com and if any of the shirts that I've like made, I you identify with, then please pick out something. It all literally goes towards maintaining the care of my mom. But like the one thing that I think you can do is if you know someone who is in this same situation or someone who is maybe scared to talk to their parent or doesn't know what step to take, send them the page, because I do think that once you see it a bit more and once you just kind of like look at the page, it takes away some of that fear and it lets you just like slowly enter what that life could be. And the sooner the better, in all honesty, because the longer that we go not knowing what's going on, then the more havoc that can wreak. I think that's how that, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want to just support everything you've said, and folks in the chat and people who have joined us. If you're enjoying this and if you want to support Jacqueline and her mom, please do follow, subscribe. Make sure that if you have a little extra, go to that Cash App, go to that Venmo.
Yeah.
We've heard about these costs tonight. This adds up to someone's salary, and a healthy salary at that, on an annual basis. So let's
Lord.
caregivers and support each other. And Jacqueline, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you're doing and for this conversation tonight. It is just wonderful to share space with you. I really enjoyed our call last week, and I know that the care plan wants to support you in your work however we can. So thank you, friend.
I so appreciate that, and I would love to come on and chat whenever. And I appreciate your support, and I am here to support right back.
There's a question before you hop off. Is there a Zelle account? We're getting into it now. Is there a PayPal? Is there a Zelle?
No, right? PayPal, we got the Venmos. So I actually don't have a Zelle that's hooked up to it. We do have like a PayPal, we have Venmo, but if when the people ask, the people shall receive. So if you're asking for a Zelle, I will create the Zelle. The Zelle will be created, no problem.
Would you mind, after you hop off, just putting your email and your if you're comfortable, and your website and handles in the chat so that folks know exactly how to connect? That would be really great.
Absolutely, absolutely, I can.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we appreciate you. Snaps and hearts and all the best and all the light as you continue your journey.
All of it. I appreciate you and the work that you do. Please continue, and I will continue, and I hope we get many more.
We will. We will. Take care, hon.
Same, same. You too.
Everybody, we are now at the end of our time. I know it goes quickly. Please join us next week. We are so excited for this conversation, and I know it will be sticking with me for quite a while. For those of you who are new here, I'm Jackie Boyd, pronouns she, her, they, them, and I'm the founder of the Care Plan. We provide care planning and care management services from an LGBTQ plus perspective and center Black and Brown folks. So if you're a caregiver, if you are an older adult and you're looking for resources, if you just want to talk to somebody and understand, hey, what's this new terrain and how do I take care of myself and get the right resources, reach out. We got plenty of tools. Go to our IGTV. We've talked about literally every topic under the sun. We also have a YouTube channel that has a lot of short videos about, like, how do you hire caregivers? What is hospice? How do you talk to your parents? More around dementia and Alzheimer's as well. So stay connected to the care plan, and we will stay connected to you. There is an announcement that I want to share because we are starting a new initiative. We're all about support. And those of you who have been here for a long time know that we address a lot around care and aging, but we also support entrepreneurs and leaders and do organizational consulting work to help people be well at work and well in their workplace, which is not easy right now with COVID. So tomorrow night is the launch of our leadership circle that is for LGBTQ plus and or Black and Brown leaders of any gender identity, any sexual orientation. This is a space for if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a manager, a supervisor, an executive director, somebody who's just thinking about going out on your own or starting your own organization, you should be at Comparing Notes. Zipporah, if you wouldn't mind putting the Eventbrite in the chat, I would so appreciate it. It's going to be from 6 p.m. Central to 7:30 tomorrow night. You can get tickets for free, or if you want to, and can spare the cash, feel free to donate. But we're going to have the chance to talk in small groups and do problem solving with other leaders, get feedback. I know for myself as an entrepreneur, there's so many times where I felt like, ooh, so many of the resources out there are not geared towards Black queer women. And I really need a space where those identities and those experiences are centered and that people understand what it looks like to start a business from my perspective, or to network, or to think about finances, or to hire teams and contributors and support staff. So come hang out, get your questions answered, and we're going to be doing the second half of the evening tomorrow will be about a workshop on business planning and action planning for 2022. So you get to set your goals and figure out your plan to achieve those goals. So Comparing Notes, 6 p.m. to 7:30 tomorrow night. I hope to see you there, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Take care, everybody. Stay safe and stay well. Thank you for being with us tonight. Bye.